Hey, are you looking to upgrade your key life areas and evolve to a higher level of existence? To practically harness personal growth and spirituality in a crazy, busy, imperfect world? Then you've come to the right place. My name is Prash, and this is Urban Spirituality, the show which uniquely fuses ancient wisdom with contemporary self-growth and spiritual disciplines to deliver value-adding tools, traits, and insights to help you unleash your fullest potential. We always keep it real, featuring authentic, unfiltered dialogue with guests from diverse backgrounds to inspire, entertain, and enlighten all who listen. So get ready for your dose of urban spirituality. Be present and let's dive in. How we can learn to achieve more with less stress. Who wants a little bit of this? Who wants to achieve more with less stress? Who wants to feel actually making progress in a certain area in their life? They're actually making tangible progress, but who experiences a ton of stress doing it, right? I mean, we're all used to this. I think every one of us can testify to the challenges that we get when we're trying to make progress in a given area. Let's say it's in our career or in our health or in our family. And then sometimes all these things come up and we find that we're not making the progress that we want to do. We're not achieving the things that we want to do because there are obstacles along the way. Or maybe it's because we're focusing on the wrong stuff. And here's a big problem. One of the biggest problems we have is we sometimes end up focusing on the wrong things. And this is also a way by which we end up not making enough progress because we've been focusing on the wrong stuff. We've been working really hard, but the focus has been on the wrong stuff. And I hope you can relate to that, because I know I've done that countless times in my own life. I've ended up doing stuff where I've been focusing on the wrong stuff, and it's just not gotten me anywhere where it needed to get. And that's a real shame. That's a real challenge. When that happens and you can't get stuff that you want to get done, it's a real challenge. And so we want to get into this subject. I want a quick introduction and we'll get into this. So this live little mini free session, wisdom little session, coming to you from London, England on a Thursday night. For those of you who are tuned in from the US, where the clocks have gone forward now, those of you in Australia, India, where we regularly get people from, all these lovely places, Europe now as well. It's great to have you guys here joining us. My name is Prash Katecha. I am an international well-being and conscious leadership expert and coach. It's my passion to take wisdom from popular psychology, applied psychology, neurolinguistics, neuroleadership, and ancient wisdom, synthesize it and present it in a way that's useful and practical for modern audiences. As you can probably tell off my hair, I know, and I've been around a few years to have learned a few valuable insights that hopefully will serve. And by sharing these things, how you make a difference in your life as well. So listen, I'm not here to solve your problems. I'm not here to say that I'm the guy who knows how to do it the best way. What I'm here to do is to share things that have worked for me, that have worked for my clients, both corporate and personal, and that will hopefully work for you if you're to give them half a chance and then modulate them to make them work in your way, in your life, for you. So let's talk about stressing less and achieving more using the power of the 4-circle approach, the 4 circles approach. Now, this whole thing comes about through some inspiration from some popular reading. Those of you who are familiar with a guy called Stephen Covey, he talks about this thing called the circles of influence. And it's a classic book that as a coach, as a mentor, it's a book that mentors would actually study at some stage. It's a business book, but it's great for leadership, for personal growth, for self-leadership. And what he talks about is something that I want to lean on and I want to expand on and go into a little bit. So let's just take any area of our life right now. And I want you, as we're doing this, think of an area in your life where you've found a particular, where you have found that your focus is being wasted, where you're so concerned, so worried about a particular area or thing in your life, and yet you're not getting the results. You're not able to make a difference in that area. Think of what that could be. Is it in your health? Is it in your finances? Is it in the lives of somebody you care about, your child, your parents? You know, I have elders who've suffered a lot because of the COVID situation, and they're very much a concern for me. Who's looking after them. My elderly aunt up north, and they don't have kids, so I often worry about how they're going to be looked after. And it's a challenge. So think of something for you in your life as something, someone, some situation where you're concerned or where you're worried and you want to make an improvement. Now, have you noticed that there are certain things that you have in your life where you are really worried about, but you actually have very little control over, and yet you've spent way too much time focusing on? What we're talking about there is exactly this principle of bringing control back into our lives and focusing on the things where we can make a difference. And we use this idea of the circles of influence, the 4 circles, and I'll show you what they are. I'm going to show you 3, and I'm going to reveal the 4th towards the end, because that's a fresh take on this. So let me show you this right here. So this right here, if you can see this right here is what I'm talking about. This right here is a diagram that shows circles. Now, if I show you right in the middle here, this right here is the circle. Right here, let's start on the outside, the circle of concern. This here is the circle of concern. So the circle of concern, this thing here, is all those things that you have in your life that you're worried about, you're maybe concerned with, you're stressed about, but you can't directly, you have no control over them. The weather is a great example. So think of things that you have in your life that are like, got the weather, your past decisions and bad behavior. Now you're concerned about them, but you can't change them. Government policy, unless you're a way up politician. Sports matches, you can't control the outcome of your team. The threat of war, celebrity behavior and their opinions, the economy, the price of goods in the supermarket, the media, right? Being made redundant. There's a lot of things that you can't directly control, but you have a lot of concern with, right? Does that make sense? So you're concerned with these sorts of things. The earthquake in another part of the world, you have concern. You can't control anything to do with that, right? So that's where a lot of people, unfortunately, end up spending their time. We often spend time in those areas where we're actually not able to do much of anything about. Then you have right here in the middle, the circle of influence. The circle of influence represents those things that you could potentially influence. Now, you may not be able to directly control them. They wouldn't be in your sphere of direct control, but you can influence the outcome, your commitments, other people's thoughts. You can influence other people's thoughts through the way you behave with them, right? The way we interact with other people can influence their thoughts about us. Other people's actions, we can influence those, especially the next generation, children, right? We can influence them positively through our actions. We can influence them. Whether people like us or not, to a degree, we can control that. That's within our circle of influence. Your productivity, especially during the working from home, we can control to a degree. We have an influence over those things. We don't directly control them, but we have an influence over those things. What are other examples? Where you work, you have an influence over where you work. You could maybe have, to a certain degree, the opportunity to decide, where do you work? Do you work at this company? Do you work at that company? Do you work from home? Do you work from the office? Your reputation, you have an ability to influence your reputation. Who follows you on social media? Commitments, what you say no to, what you say yes to. So there are a lot of things in your circle of influence that you can have an effect on. Now, I want you to just think for a second and take a moment to think about what you have in your life that falls into these categories. Your circle of concern out here, you have no direct control over, just no control. You have no control, influence. You're just concerned about it. Think about what's in there, and then think about what's in your circle of influence. What are those things that you can actually influence? Just think about those things for a second. Take a moment to think where that thing or that person or that situation that you're dealing with right now or that you're going to deal with, where does it sit? Is it in your circle of concern or your circle of influence over here? So take a moment to do that. Now, when you've done that, when you've thought about that and you've given it a little bit of thinking time, take a deep breath, right? Breathe and ask yourself, is that thing that I'm trying to have an influence over, is it beyond my grasp? Am I wasting my time and energy and resources focusing on trying to change something that is beyond my circle of influence? It's out there in my circle of concern, but it's not within my sphere of control or influence. Ask yourself this hard question. Because what could happen is we end up spending way too much time on something that's bothering us, that's a concern, but we just have no control over. And maybe we can shift our focus to things that will actually give us more results because we have an influence or control over them. Okay? Now, let's move on to the third circle, the circle of control right here. So, the circle of control are those things that you can directly control. You actually have direct control over those things. Let's go with some of these. What you watch on TV, most of the time, unless you're having a battle with your family member, most of the time you can control what you watch on TV, right? The clothes you wear, most of the time, unless you're in a particular role at work where you can't and you have to wear a uniform, most of the time you can control the clothes you wear, what you watch on TV. You can control where you go out around your house. You can still control that. You control the thoughts inside here. Our inner territory, we control that. We control what we eat. Most of us do, with a few exceptions, most of us can control what we eat. We can choose what we're eating. Children may not necessarily control what they eat, but adults, we can, right? Our thoughts, our words, our actions and behavior, our reactions to things. That's within our circle of control. That's right here in the circle of control. We can control that. Our attitude and our mindset, our mood, we can control our mood. A lot of people challenge, they'll say, no, we can't control our mood. No, we can. We control our mood. At any moment in time, we control the focus of our emotions. As an emotional intelligence coach, this is a big aha moment for anyone out there who feels that their emotions or their mood is controlled by other people. You may be influenced by other people, but ultimately the control is with you. It always has been. Now, I know this because I did this live recently. I talked about how I lost my mother, and I naturally felt really sad about losing my mother, and it took me over, and it caused me to behave in certain ways which are not good. And I got into certain bad habits, drinking alcohol at a young age, other things that I won't go into. But it was my choice. And when I changed the way I looked at my mother's loss, at losing my mom, when I changed what it meant to me, because that's within my control, when I changed what it meant to me, I started to change the way I thought about losing my mom. When I changed the way I thought about losing my mom, I started to forgive myself. When I started to forgive myself, I started to realize that the activities that I was doing, the unhealthy activities, were not serving me. And I was therefore able to shift my choices to more healthier choices. And therefore my behavior changed according to my choices. And as a result of my behavior, my results changed as well. And I started to achieve more. And it all happened because I recognized my circle of control, that thing which is within my control. So again, let me pause for a moment. What is there in your life that you know you have control over, that maybe you didn't realize you have control over, but you do, right? We can't change the weather outside, but we can change the way we perceive it. We can't change necessarily big political views or our stance on certain positions out there and what we do, but we can change our approach. We can change our attitude to certain people. We may not be able to change them entirely, but we may be able to influence them. If we can't influence them, like there are certain members of our family, right? We may feel like they're just a lost cause, but we can change the way we respond with them. That's within our control. Let me give you another example. Let's say one of your goals is getting fitter, right? You want to get fitter, you want to lose weight, or you want to just get fitter. Let's say that's an example. Now, let's say part of your fitness plan therefore involves going for walks and going for a run. Now, if it rains crazy and it starts raining and it's super cold, it's freezing, it's raining, you may not feel like wanting to go out. Can you change the weather and make it sunny? No. So changing the weather so that you can go and do your run and get fit is out of your circle of control and influence. It's in your circle of concern, but it's not in your circle of influence or control, right? Now, you might be able to go to the gym, maybe, but right now gyms are closed, at least in the UK. So going to the gym is out of the question. So that is in your circle of influence, but unfortunately you can't go to a gym right now if you're in the UK. But since your goal is getting fit, it doesn't actually necessarily have to rely on the weather, does it? What is in your control? Well, if the goal is getting fit, the goal isn't getting fit while running in sunshine. The goal is getting fit, right? The goal, let's say, is getting fit or getting healthier, losing weight, whatever it is. So what is within your circle of control? Well, you have a space where you live. So maybe you can shift and change the way you work out. You can do home-based workouts. You can do on-the-spot jogging. You can do any number of activities for fitness to raise your cardiovascular levels, to raise your metabolism, to raise your heart rate. And all of those things can be done in your house. So what you've done is you've shifted your focus from your circle of concern, like, oh my God, it's raining and I can't go out for a run and I'm therefore just going to get fat, or I'm not going to get fit. It constantly rains. The weather's rubbish. I don't want to go out. You've changed your focus from a circle of concern right back to a circle of control to say, wait a minute, no matter what the weather is, I can work out right here. I may not like the kind of workouts that may not be my favorite workouts, but I can work out. And by working out from home, now you can start making a change. Does that make sense? So what we're trying to do here is we're shifting our focus so that we can start to take control of certain situations rather than us being helpless, right? You know, one of my coaching clients, based out in the US, he had it hard for a while. Because he's on a weight loss thing, and he's a busy executive. He doesn't work out. He's always in the office 12 hours a day, and it's not really healthy. And he was complaining that he was getting these ready-made meals from a health company. He goes, the company closed down. There's no health company that's delivering in his area. So he's now given power to a circle of concern. He's concerned. He can't get hold of certain foods. He had all his food ready-made, and he was becoming helpless. So I said, well, what's within your influence? He goes, well, maybe I could influence my wife to maybe make some healthier meals for me, and I can do that. So then he started to get his wife to do some healthier meals. So he shifted from his circle of concern to, oh my God, I can't get my healthy meals ready made for me. The company's closed down, to, oh, my wife will make a couple of meals a week and that'll keep me going. Now, later on, it happened that his wife got a role. She actually got a job during these difficult times. She was working. So he said, oh no, now I'm screwed again. Let's wait a minute. What's within your circle of control? He goes, well, I do breakfast with the kids in the morning. That's a fun thing for me to do. I said, okay. So what could you do that could help you to solve this problem about your healthy eating plans, your meal plans? He goes, well, if I'm preparing for the kid, I said, do the kids eat healthy? He goes, yeah, we make sure the kids have a healthy thing. I said, so could you maybe create your own healthy snack and prepare your packed lunch in the morning while you're preparing the kids? He goes, yeah. So suddenly we've shifted from something that's a circle of concern to a circle of influence, and now to a circle of control. And when it's in that circle of control, bingo, you can now start to make a difference, and you can start to control it and do something good about it, right? Let's talk about relationships, or, relationships. And I don't just mean romantic relationships. I mean any kind of relationship. Imagine you have a relationship with somebody and you're concerned about that person, but you can't get real close to them, right? You might be able to not do much, and you feel you're worried about them, and, but you can't physically do anything because of lockdown, you're restricted, you can't go. But what you can do is shift that concern, which is from a circle of concern, shift it to the circle of influence, right? Shift it from here, circle of concern, to here, the circle of influence. How? You could start picking up the phone. You could start having a conversation. You could introduce them to a dietitian, a nutritionist who's a health expert. You can maybe connect them with somebody. Maybe you could intervene. Maybe you can ask their permission and say, well, look, I'd love to help you and introduce you to somebody who could help you with this particular area. And I did that with a family member. I'm concerned about her, physically can't see her. She's an elder. She's an aunt. She's not doing well. And so I suggested, look, so I brokered the conversation, got them in touch. In other words, I use my circle of influence results from a circle of concern, just pure mental worry, to a circle of influence where I could actually do something about it and have a positive influence on that elderly family member's health indirectly. And obviously when lockdown releases, I'll have the opportunity to then go into my circle of control and actually go there and stay with them or help them or do something. So can you see the power of shifting what you have on your plate as a problem or a challenge and shifting the focus of which aspect or area you're focusing on so that you move it from your circle of concern to your circle of influence, something that you can influence, or even better still, from your circle of influence to your circle of control, where you can have direct control over it. Does that make sense? Just think about that for a second, and then I'm going to move on to the fourth circle. And that's a powerful share where you are on this subject, where you have been, what you've learned, to all these kinds of coachings, is reflecting back on where we've been. And listen, when we look back, we're not looking back to wallow, okay? It's okay to look back to the past, but just don't live in it. Many of us live in the past, right? We're so caught up with what we've done wrong, what regret we have, what resent we have, how we did something bad, the guilt that we have, and we're caught up. We're sending energy backwards in time. So we need to unplug from that and look at the present. So it's okay to look to the past, just not live in it. So reflect back, see where you've let go of something because it was in your circle of influence, but actually you could have moved it into your circle of, it was in your circle of. Also think about something where you were over paying too much energy to something that's in your circle of concern. It never would have been in your circle, is within your circle of influence or control. Right? I was saying this when I was coaching some teenagers, to their parents. You can't necessarily control if your teenage son is going to join a gang. And this is somebody I was dealing with in Ecuador. And I was coaching a parent based out in Ecuador. And I said, look, you can't control whether they join a gang, or but you can influence where they spend their time. You can influence what's the kind of people to a degree he gets exposed to when he's with you, influence and have a positive influence on your son. It will reduce the chances of him joining a gang. So think about that in your life. Finances, what is it within your circle of concern that you're better off leaving and actually shifting to something that you can control, right? Your circle of influence. What can you influence or control about your finances or your business? A lot of times as business owners, and I learned this when I shifted from corporate life to an entrepreneur and business owner, I was far too worried about certain areas when actually I needed to focus on stuff a lot closer to home. I was so busy working, for example, in the business, the nitty-gritties, that I forgot about actually building the business and working on the business. And if those of you who are business owners, you'll appreciate that. You'll know this. So give that thought. And so let's move on to the last circle. Now, that's not on this circle of concern. This is the fourth circle, is a circle that I innovated, and that's called the circle of dominance. Okay, so let's take a quick recap. On the outside, we have the circle of influence. The circle of concern, rather. On the outside, we have the circle of concern, right? The stuff that we're worried about, but we have no control, no influence over, right? The weather and stuff like that. Then we have the circle of influence, the stuff we can influence. We may not be able to directly control it, but we can influence the outcomes and therefore move us towards more success, to achieve more, right? The circle of influence, right? Things that we can influence, our reputation, what we wear, the way people perceive. In the center, the things we have direct control, our mood, our direct choices to do with our emotional, physical, spiritual, mental health. Those things are directly within our circle of control. Where we choose to work, we can give up a job. We don't have to work in a certain place, but we can change that. It is within our circle of control. But within the circle of control, this new circle I want to introduce you to is the circle of dominance. And the circle of dominance is at whether other people regard you great at it or whether you regard yourself great at it. And if you don't think you're great again, I guarantee you that there is something that you have that you're great at that somebody out there admires. Somebody out there is thinking, wow, you are really good at this. You are really good at that. I'm amazed at what you can accomplish in this. There is somebody out there who believes that. You may not know it, you may not feel it, but there is. Let me assure you that you have some greatness. And what I want you to do here is to meditate for a moment on what you regard as your circle of dominance. What is that for you? Now, let me give you an example for myself, right? My thing right here is, for me, my thing right here is, like, for me, speaking. It's my comfort zone, like to be in an area where I'm publicly speaking. I'm good at that. And that's not in an arrogant way. We're not being arrogant here. We're celebrating what we're good at. What is it that we can dominate, that we're our key strengths, our superpowers, so to speak. And this is not the time to be modest. This is celebrate what you have. Even though other people may not, it's time for you to celebrate that. So me speaking publicly, giving talks, orating, narrating stuff, and playing music, right? I'm no professional. I can create stuff. I'm good at playing music. I'm good at singing. I mean, I'm okay. I'm not like a pro. But I know now I can use it for a better cause. That's how I created mantra therapy. So think about what it is that you are in work. And don't just look at it from a work sense. Look at it outside of work, at home, in relationships, physically, in sports. Maybe it's in your hobbies. What is it that you're good at? Whatever that is, that falls in your circle of dominance. Why is that important? Because sometimes when we're too busy focusing on the wrong stuff, on the outer edges of that circle, right? The circles of concern, and shift our focus from those things to stuff that we're actually good at. When we start to refocus on the stuff that we're really good at in our circle of dominance, it almost automatically recharges and energizes us, our mind, body, spirit system, and our intellect to be able to start to solve problems in the other areas. Now, I can't even explain how this happens. It's almost like a mystical transmutation. It's like a kind of alchemy that happens when we choose. And I want you to try it if you already haven't done it. When you're feeling down, when you're feeling concerned, when you're feeling like that life's going to pot, when you feel shit about something, change your focus from where you're focusing to something that you're really good at, even moderately good at, but something that you feel happy with about yourself. And if you don't know, think harder. Take this as an exercise, walk away with this and use this. When you start shifting your focus to something that you're good at, cooking, music, sports, singing, some hobby, accounting, I don't know, finance, speaking, number crunching, when you focus on something that you're good at, you will mysteriously start to top up your confidence levels and your problem solving abilities, your ideation, your dopamine levels will go up. Your ideation facilities will go up. Your cognitive faculties will get a refresh. And what you will then be able to do is start to achieve the success in the other areas and make the progress that you want, because you recharge your batteries over here by hanging around activities within your circle of dominance, right there in the middle. So there you have it, my friends. The 4 circles to help you move from stress towards achievement. Less stress, more achievement through the 4 circles.
Hey folks, thanks so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed this episode, and as with all our episodes, found something to inform, inspire, and empower you in your personal and spiritual journeys in life. As always, feel free to leave a little love through your ratings and comments, subscribe, and share it with those you care about. And take your personal and spiritual evolution to the next level by joining us on one of our unique events, workshops, or retreats, or taking advantage of our personal and professional coaching packages. Find out more about us at mantratherapy.co.uk. I'm your host, Prash K. This is Urban Spirituality, and we will catch you on on the next episode.